Okay, welcome back to Buried Cinema. This week we're talking about Thor and what Marvel is doing with comic book movies right now. I'm Nate Griffiths.
I'm Steve Moore.
I'm Albin.
I'm Brian Slattery.
Okay, thanks guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Nate.
Thank you. I feel so appreciated. Last week was, we just want to have a little send-off to Tom. Tom has moved to Colorado. We'll be placing his address up online so you can go bother him.
Or stalk him.
Yeah, or stalk him. So Brian has graciously agreed to step into his role and become a regular member of Buried Cinema.
So you need to criticize Nate's pronunciation of words constantly.
Is that what Tom did?
That's what Tom did.
That's what he brought to
Is
the
that
table.
what my role is?
Yes.
Yeah. And spelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, farewell Tom and welcome to Brian. Like I said, this week we're talking about Thor, which is an adaptation of the Marvel comic Thor. It's directed by Kenneth Branagh, who before this has been known mostly for Shakespeare. And it stars Chris Hemsworth, Anthony Hopkins, and Natalie Portman. And for opening review, I'm going to turn to Albin.
Okay. Well, as we mentioned last week in looking ahead, Thor was not a movie that I was looking forward to, and I don't think anyone here was looking forward to, especially looking at the trailers, especially feeling like it was going to be really stupid. But in seeing that it was highly regarded, we decided to give it a chance. And so with that in mind, I actually built up expectation, built up excitement going into this film. And I'm happy to say that even with built up expectation, I still came away enjoying this film. I had fun with it. Now I do have a lot of critiques about it. I'm not a big fan of the story. I'm not a fan of how everything just played out. But the surprising thing is, I felt that it was actually the acting that really carried this movie. I felt that Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman were really, really good in their roles. I didn't see anything in the story that suggested they should have fallen in love, but because their acting was so spot on, like, it's Natalie Portman. I believe her. She
was pretty charming. Yeah, I was like, I'll fall in love with her.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, I believe that she was in love with this guy. You know, and I was like, just looking at her face and just seeing the way that she expressed herself, there was no doubt. I was just convinced. I was like, okay, it's silly. It's been like a day. You've known this guy for one day. There's no reason why you should.
Did you see him with his shirt off?
I did, and and that's the other thing I have to say about this movie. I'm a dude, okay? That's what you should. Well, you may not be sure after what I'm about to say, but good golly, he was really attractive. Like, I don't understand, like, how he could be that good looking and that charming in the span of the movie. Like,
Stirring feelings you never knew you had.
Like,
I just want him to hold me at night.
He was pretty amazing. Like, just seeing him look, I mean, like, this was one thing if he's, like, just good looking, but he was charming. Like, I really enjoyed his personality and just the way he carried himself. And,
Really? I thought he was kind of an ass.
No.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Tell me about that.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Well, yeah, in the beginning of the movie, he was very arrogant. I mean, that was one of the reasons he got kicked out of Asgard to begin with, was because of his arrogance. And that was basically the point of the movie, was him trying to become more like his father.
Yeah.
More of an understanding person who isn't headstrong and rushing into things.
Apparently all it takes is one night of heavy drinking.
One night of heavy drinking and then emptying your soul to Natalie Portman, and then boom, you're the best person in the world. But
I can believe that.
and realizing that you can't pick up that hammer, that he has no power whatsoever.
yes, that was a very changing point in the movie.
Yeah.
Was when he realized that he's no longer a prince. He's no longer
He's just human. Yeah.
the strongest person. He's mortal.
Yeah. Yeah.
His change is probably like the things I love about this movie are the humor, the action, the way that the characters interact. But sometimes the character's growth and kind of the overall story. It's a little weak, but this is definitely, for me, this is the definition of like a summer movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if this had come out in like January or October, I would be probably tearing this thing to shreds. But it entertained me so much.
Yeah.
And I just had such a good time watching it that
Yeah.
I have a hard time critiquing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely critiques to be made. Them riding horses to that was ridiculous. Why are they riding They're like the most advanced civilization in the universe, and they're riding horses across a bridge. I mean...
And then they don't even take the horses with them.
We're going to go down the road. Let's get our horses. You know, that was absurd.
They just send him back. Send him back. Just give him a pound in the butt and just
I
go.
do.
Yeah.
I guess that's like their culture, because I love the scene when he walks into the pet store and he demands.
I need a horse.
Yeah.
Oh,
We have dogs and cats. I want one big enough to ride. The humor is great.
Yeah, the humor is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, like, even though he was demanding, but he was also really polite about it. He wasn't rude. He wasn't arrogant.
I don't think we can say anything bad about Chris Hemsworth.
No, you can't. I can. All right, I'm smitten. All right.
I will defend him to the
Once that
death.
shirt came off, I was like, oh my gosh. I went home and I must have done like 5 or 6 push-ups that night. Like I want to look like that man. It was just really amazing.
Something that I really appreciate about this film is that, which is kind of hard to do, is the bad guys, basically the Frost Giants, just that big kind of like army bag. They're basically like the Mole Men, right? Which is a very classic comic book character, but it's so rarely done in movies because they feel like they need to have this big, evil, like awful guy for him to really come up against. And I thought it was fascinating. They just did the Frost Giants, and Thor beats them up, and they're still a threat. And I really enjoyed that dynamic.
Well,
I actually, like, what I thought was interesting about them is I actually felt, like, sympathy for them.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of evil, you know. Everybody has their flaws. But, you know, I mean, they're like, they've been beaten. They're an entire race that's been
subjugated.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And, you know, you feel bad for them in a way, you know.
The other thing is, you don't even know that they're evil.
Well, they didn't.
You know what I'm
They
saying?
didn't come onto Earth and try to like eradicate human beings. So
I would argue that they're not really the main. I wouldn't argue that they're the main villain of the movie. I would say that Loki is clearly the main villain of the movie. He's the half Asgardian, half Frost Giant child that like he doesn't fit. In that like, he's grown up believing he was from Asgard, and then one day he randomly finds out, oh, I'm a Frost Giant too. And that's got to be clearly a change in your brain.
yeah,
And that you don't know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
And once he takes over as king, I don't know, that part of him has been so eradicated from him, the Frost Giant part. That is why he snaps and tries to kill the Frost Giants.
Well, even that was one of the criticisms that I had, is that he wasn't half Asgardian and half Frost Giant. He was all Frost Giant. But for some reason, he didn't look like any of the other Frost Giants. There was no explanation of why he was different. Because he was different. But there was no... I'm not sure if in the comics there are...
Asgardian and not...
Yeah.
I thought they used some kind of magic, because like when he picked up the baby, right? The baby was...
He starts to change.
He changed. So I thought there was some kind of magic.
If that's the case, I would have accepted that. I just wish it would have been more explicit.
I knew he was full Frost Giant. It was just mistaken.
Well, I'm just saying, there are like little things. The relationship between Natalie Portman and him was like, why are they in love? And then
you just let it happen.
You let it happen. And the acting was good enough that you just believe it.
Yeah.
You just accept it. Yeah.
Those are the kind of things you can let go in some movies. So.
Right.
Yeah. And in comic book movies, too, the fact that, like, even though Loki falls off the bridge, I know he's not dead.
No, it's a comic movie.
He's coming back.
He's coming back. Of course, they're going to make a Thor 2 because this movie's awesome.
Yeah.
Although, I'll disagree with you on one thing. I don't think it was just the acting that made this good. I think the directing was amazing, too. Some of the shots when he would, like, the way he would Kenneth Branagh would cut away and the way he'd compound shots was just absolutely brilliant. I thought the directing was made a lot of the action scenes that would have been kind of dull if he hadn't shot it in the way he did.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh is an amazing director, and he should just never, ever be a villain in Westerns. But other than that, he's amazing.
He hasn't
Wild
done
Wild
very
West.
good outside of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Branagh. So I was
Rabbit
actually.
Proof Fence, have you seen that?
Did he direct that?
I don't know.
I mean, as a director,
Yeah.
he's done a couple of things as directing outside of Shakespeare that haven't been very good.
Dead Again. He did Dead Again.
I didn't see that.
That's okay. That's something.
Actually.
I'm not proving my point.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
it's gonna grab. Darn it! No, so that's part of what I was surprised by this. I think my biggest complaint with this movie was, which is just kind of a personal thing, and that's most of my complaints with this movie are like personal, like nerdy geek things, you know. But the beginning, why he feels the need to do that whole, which has been happening a lot, that unnecessary flashback.
Oh.
You give us a little bit, and we see Thor fall down, and then you cut. And then we basically see the movie just transition normally.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was
it felt unnecessary. Like, just start with Anthony Hopkins narrating. Anthony Hopkins' voice at the beginning. I'm sold.
Yeah. I don't know why a lot of the movies been doing that lately. I don't know what that's...
Seems like a strange trend.
I think I agree with you to an extent. Like that cut was really annoying to me too. But the part that I liked about that start was that, you know, I feel more tied to Natalie Portman's character as a result, because that's the character that I see in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good point.
And that way, like, because, you know, I mean, honestly, like, the scene later on when you see these Asgardians enter into this town, like, it's so, like, shocking just to see this contrast. Like, it just made my brain, like, break. You know? And to start from Anthony Hopkins and trying to wedge it into Earth, I think it just would have been really awful. Because it just, comic book universe and all of a sudden, like, Earth, you know?
Yeah.
I liked it better that it's
having that contrast immediately.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Brian?
Well, I was agreeing with you that I didn't like that part while I was in the theater. I didn't even remember it after I came out of the theater, because it was just, I liked the rest of the movie so much that I didn't, that one part just kind of got set aside. I completely forgot about it.
Something that Thor does that I thought they did very well was integrate the other Marvel characters. And they really showed me what Marvel is doing with this the scope of basically, Marvel has definitely created a universe in comic books, right? And they're very clearly transitioning this to movies now, with Thor and Captain America coming out and the Avengers, and tons of just references, you know, to Tony Stark. We saw
That was
Green
great
Arrow,
when
right?
The
Hawkeye.
The
Green Arrow's DC.
robot. I can't remember.
Destroyer.
The Destroyer came down.
and goes,
It's like, Tony Stark never tells me what he does.
Yeah.
That's great.
just these nice little moments, you know, that it was pretty... I did not realize that Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye was in this. So that was like a cool...
So that was really cool.
That was a cool
The
surprise.
minute he went for the gun, and then he went for the bow, I was like, that's Hawkeye.
Yeah, I was like, is it going to be... I was like,
Yeah,
so
that was awesome.
Some really cool fanfare. But let's talk a little bit about what they're doing. Do we like what they're doing? Is it... How is this going to change movies and comic books?
Has anything like this ever been done before? Where you have movies that are somewhat disconnected, but they're all interrelated like this? I don't think anybody's ever done anything like this before.
Characters like weaving together in such a large mythology.
That's not a direct
not a direct sequel.
series.
Yeah.
You know, I can't think
It's
of
not a
anything
direct
that's been
spin-off.
done.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Like, this is
Because what's
really
happened is they're building up individual movies that will tie in.
And they're just using the same Shield guy over and over again. He's in every movie so far. He's been in it.
Yep, tying everything together.
He's good as Agent Coulson. And the thing is that guy's now Agent Coulson. That poor actor.
Yeah.
Clark Gregg. I've seen him in stuff before. He is now Agent Coulson. That's his life basically at this point.
I was watching New Adventures of Old Christine, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's the guy from...
Was he in it? He's very good, but yeah, the Shield guy.
The problem with it, though, is, you know, it's going to break down. It already has with Hulk, Incredible Hulk. You know, they're already having to replace Edward Norton with Mark Ruffalo, and so they're not gonna be able to keep it hanging together perfectly.
Yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but I mean, I'm not going to complain about the Mark Ruffalo, thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty brilliant what they're doing with creating the universe and separate stories because now you don't have to deal with trying to do everyone's origin stories. Like everyone has already been established by the time Avengers comes into play. Like I thought Bryan Singer was brilliant with the way he did X-Men, but with the way he did X-Men, he really only did like one main character, and then like these other guys were just kind of supporting. Yeah. So I'm really excited about when they actually pull together Avengers. Now that we all have been introduced to all these characters and we know what they are and what they're all about, like they're gonna go right into the Avengers. You know, and like that becomes something that is really worth being excited about, as opposed to like, oh gosh, well, they're gonna do this to screw it up, Yeah.
Well, and it's Joss Whedon stuff.
And it's Joss Whedon.
Do you think Thor has made you more excited, or
for
the
Avengers?
The Avengers? Yeah.
I'd have to say yes, but I mean, I'll have to see Captain America to know before I'm fully on board with the Avengers. But I can't say that.
Thor. I think Thor is like the weakest. Personally, I think it's the weakest concept out of all the superheroes.
I was just going to say that.
I mean, in the Marvel universe. I mean, if we bring in DC, there's Aquaman, which is absurd. But in the Marvel universe, I think Thor is the weakest concept. And the fact that you're able to make a decent movie out of it gives me high hopes.
Not just a decent movie, but a really likable character. So, like, I'm really looking forward to seeing him now. I mean,
if anything, send posters to Alvin, and we'll put them on his wall.
Just a life-size cardboard cutout would be.
That was one
awesome.
thing I didn't like was actually at the end of the movie when they said Thor will next be seen in the Avengers. I'm like, really? Did you need to tell me that?
Just a bit of marketing. Yeah.
Whatever.
But my biggest concern, I mean, I think it's really fascinating that they're basically doing comic books is finding a way to survive in movies, and Marvel has just become a movie studio, and that'll kind of fund what comic books are doing. And comic books, I think Tom mentioned this at one point, so they're constantly rebooting themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating to see them now in new reiterations on film. What I'm concerned about is because there's all these storylines, all these villains, I'm worried about, is it going to become so convoluted? The four superheroes, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think you can do a good storyline with those four. But now we also have Samuel Jackson's character. We got Nick Fury. We've got the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent we got to worry about. We got Scarlett Johansson's character. Hawkeye's going to be hanging out too.
Well, he was in the original Avengers.
Yeah. So that's my main. Do you think a film is very different to do that? Just those 2 hours. In a comic book, you have a year to build all these stories up. So that's my main concern. I don't know.
They're going to need really good directors. And so far, it seems like they've gotten really good directors. So they're going to need directors. I mean, Joss Whedon was perfect because he can handle really complicated stories with a lot of different characters. He's good at that.
Yeah.
So, he was a perfect choice. But well, that too. But I mean, just the way he tells a story he tells a story that weaves a lot of different stories together. That's just how he works. And so, but they're going to need directors that can handle that kind of thing, and that's going to be tough.
It's going to be tougher because you have Kenneth Branagh directing this. You have now I can't remember his name from Iron Man.
Oh yeah,
Shane Black has now taken over.
I know
Iron
Shane
Man.
Black has taken over Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
but can't remember his name.
Yeah,
and then the guy, a different
John
Favreau.
John Favreau.
Thank you. And then the guy from I don't even know who's directing Captain America.
Joe Johnston.
And then now Joss Whedon has to take his direction, and make a new direction.
Yeah.
And so far it's been the directing hasn't been so unique. You know what I mean? None of these directors have had such an impact on these films that Iron Man seems very different from The Incredible Hulk, or that Thor doesn't seem like they could be in the same universe.
Yeah.
There's some there's some little things, some subtle touches that you can really see, but they've done a very good job at keeping it all like moldable and kind of malleable. They can all fit together.
Yeah, I mean, they do feel like they're in the same universe, but also separate enough that I don't think that they're gonna conflict with each other.
Yeah,
you know, like they all have their own separate area of the universe that's kind of cut off, that's for them, and I like that there's this shield guy who's kind of connecting the dots and bringing things together. You know, like I think about, you know, like you have your Superman movies and you have your Batman movies, right? And then before that you have Superman and Batman comic books, and they would cross over every now and then, but you don't, like you mentioned like all the villains and juggling all of that. You know, you have Metropolis and Gotham City, you know, for Superman and Batman, and I guess their villains kind of reside in those particular areas, and they don't crisscross, which you can accept to a point, you know. And I can see when they put together an Avengers movie, you know, there can be a foe, a villain or an arch nemesis or whatever that rises up that would force these people to have to come together. Like it's a summer movie, you know. Like I don't think it needs to be super heady and super complicated.
No.
I'm not worried about.
An example of that, like actually breaking a movie, is Spider-Man 3, because you have all these story threads trying to be brought together, and it just destroys the movie. You know.
You can almost
you hear crickets.
Do
you guys think Spider-Man 3 was brilliant?
I purposely avoided Spider-Man 3.
That's really what broke that movie. It could have been a good movie if it was just about Sandman or just about Venom. We won't mention the Green Goblin.
You know, okay. I don't know if it's about just like too many story threads. I think we just had a lot of characters.
That had stories.
All jammed into one movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think that at the one scene at the end of the credits where you saw that the doctor, Eric, is now basically
it's Loki in disguise.
It's Loki in disguise.
Loki as a shapeshifter.
And you can see that Loki will be probably part of the Avengers. And I mean, what you didn't get any of that from the Iron Man movies. Yeah. So you can't expect that an Iron Man villain will be up in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Because he basically just killed both of them.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious about Loki as a bad guy to some extent. Because I think that was something that could have been developed more in Thor, their relationship as brothers. Because I understand that Thor feels betrayed, but I don't really feel that attached to Loki so much. Or I don't feel how betrayed he is. Like I just feel that could have been brought out a little bit. And I think for me, that's kind of the way that I would sum this film up. It's a ton of fun. You know what I mean? I really, really enjoyed it. But there's some small stuff with the story that is really just like nitpicking. But this is the start of the summer, and it makes me really encouraged for the summer. So let's try and sum up the rest of you guys. How do you feel about Thor?
I thought it was way better than I expected. There were nitpicky things that were problems, but it was great. It was great.
I think this was small in story, really big on fun, and
say it.
Just do it. Commit to it.
Chris Hemsworth is awesome.
This movie is going to make Chris Hemsworth a megastar. There's no way around that. Yeah. But I really enjoyed the visuals from this movie. I don't think we talked about that enough.
We didn't talk about those. The art direction's really cool, yeah.
Like, all the scenes were great.
It could have been cheesy.
It could have been cheesy. The effects were good. I can't say how it looked in 3D, however, but I liked the chemistry between all the actors. I felt the acting was very good. So overall, it was a great movie for me. Great experience.
All right. We're gonna do some flip chart next. Review.
Okay, now it's time for Flick Chart, where we rate the movie we watched this week up against a variety of other movies. This first one, Thor versus Galaxy Quest.
Ooh, that's a little tougher.
That's a little tougher.
We've never heard your opinion on Galaxy Quest.
I love Galaxy Quest.
Oh,
I don't
yeah?
know what it is. It's just everything about that movie is just. It is. I can just picture Star Trek convention. All of a sudden, now William Shatner is on a plane or a spaceship, and he has to save a race. I can picture that happening. I don't know why. I can just see that happening someday.
This movie's actually based on one of William Shatner's like acid trips. We talk about Galaxy Quest a lot.
Yeah,
Here.
yeah. I mean,
so nerdy about it.
I like Thor a lot, but I don't think it can be Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is a classic. You know, we know that. We know that it's a classic. Thor, it might be a classic, but most likely not. I don't think it's going to reach that status.
I'm pretty sure you won't be able to lump a single comic book movie into a classic, except for the original Superman and
Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Or Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man was pretty good. I mean,
You just said it was pretty good.
Yeah.
You didn't that. I mean, you can't say it's a great movie. You said it was pretty good. I mean,
It's not a classic. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say the first Iron Man was
I've heard this argument before.
a classic.
The
movie.
first Iron Man
the
is
first
classic.
Batman.
Brilliant.
Come on.
I was going to say Batman, and he said The Dark Knight, and
Yeah.
then
They're kind of.
Well,
they're a very similar movie,
Yeah.
which is they're essentially the same thing.
What? I'm talking about Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah.
How is that the same as The Dark Knight?
Well, no. When you say Batman, you can just kind of assume you're talking about both.
Oh, okay. So all of the Batman movies are now classics.
No.
Calm down, sir.
Take that back.
It's
What are you trying to say?
Especially Batman from 1960.
Exactly. So
Yes.
I'm saying
that
that
is a classic.
there are a lot more comic book movies that are classics than you're giving credit for. Just saying. Yeah, Superman.
X2.
X2 is very good.
X2 was
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my gosh, just that opening
go
scene
Spider-Man
with
2.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I will never
That is
forget
pretty
that. That was my jaw was open that whole entire scene. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think Thor lives
Oh,
up
right.
to
Is
those
that what we're
movies.
talking
Right?
about?
Yeah.
Yes, we're still on Thor and Galaxy
Yeah.
Quest.
I don't think Thor lives up to that level.
I don't think Thor's gonna. No, I
And
don't think it's
the
gonna be a
majority of comic book movies don't live up to that level.
classic. No,
No.
no.
They normally don't do much more than a comic book movie.
Yeah, much more than summer movie awesome, or less than that in the case of the first Hulk.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right,
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy
Yeah.
Quest.
Thor versus Bridget Jones's Diary.
Well, so do we? I like Bridget Jones's Diary. I really do. It's funny.
Minus 5 man points.
hey, it's got a fight scene in it. It's a pretty cool fight scene.
Do they ride horses on a rainbow bridge? I don't think so.
Rainbow Bridge is pretty intense.
That's what you're gonna use to defend it. Horses on a rainbow bridge. It's
Minus
manly.
5 man points for you.
Wow.
You know, that one thing I did mention is, as soon as they got on that rainbow bridge, I kept thinking of the Mario Kart level.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was like, Mario Kart!
That's
Yeah.
exactly Rainbow Road. That's what I said.
Yeah. If you jump up now, it's a shortcut.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going Bridget Jones' Diary on here. It's based on a
Ooh,
straight.
really?
It is a full movie. There's a story that you can get behind. Thor, not so much. Like in between the first and this segment, I had to ask you guys questions about what the heck happened during the movie. Like I didn't understand.
That's
it.
true,
It was
yeah.
not really clear. Bridget Jones' Diary actually like a full movie.
Colin Firth or Chris Hemsworth?
Chris Hemsworth, come on. That's not even a question. Not even a question.
I have to side with Elvin on that question.
I think I would go with Alvin.
Has Colin Firth been unseated?
I bet if you asked Natasha, my wife, that it would be Colin Firth.
I don't know. Maybe you should ask her again. Maybe you should have taken.
You have any conversations with her that I should know about?
I'm surprised you went Bridget Jones' Diary because I'm going to go Bridget Jones' Diary as well, just because I do. I have a fun time watching it. I think you're right. It's a more complete movie. There's more to it.
Yeah.
Take away my man points if you have to. Yeah.
That's fine.
I'll get it back somehow.
I'm a big blockbuster fan, so I'm siding with Thor on this one.
Oh God, it's on me.
That's all right. You were gonna use those 5 man points anyways.
Wow, but Natalie Portman's in Thor.
She is.
She is.
She's awesome
really
in
good.
Thor.
She's really good.
I would have to go with Bridget Jones. Sorry.
All right.
Wow.
I'm not sad about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thor versus being John Malkovich.
We just can't tell anybody about this.
Yeah, good thing we're not.
Clearly putting that one up.
Good thing we're not recording.
Yeah, this is going on the internet. Where it'll be stored until the end of time.
Well, here's an easy one for me. I do not like being John Malkovich. I find it way too cynical. Nobody in that movie is likable. So Thor is the easy choice.
I'm going with Steve on this one. Thor's the easy choice in this. I started watching some of Being John Malkovich, and I think I must have just gotten bored and shut it off because I don't remember it. Yeah.
I like Charlie Kaufman. I think he's a brilliant writer. But
Yeah.
I just...
The only scene that I actually remember from Being John Malkovich is Malkovich. When he goes into his own body.
He goes into his own body.
And everyone is John Malkovich.
I'm surprised that we're gonna all go. I would have thought Being John Malkovich has this place in kind of at least criticism as a very important movie, as a very unique film. And the characters, it's really cynical, and it's kind of times really disturbing what's going on.
Yeah.
Especially like some of the weird stuff he's doing with sexuality, with whether it's just people who are being John Malkovich getting on with other people who because they want it's strange. But I would have to go Being John Malkovich just for its sheer uniqueness, and I don't mind the dark cynicism of it.
Yeah.
It can be, except for the really bizarre ending with John Cusack looking at what's basically an eight-year-old and wanting to be with her is really.
Wow.
I don't remember that.
No. As an 8-year-old, he's in the daughter's mind.
Whoa.
Looking at Catherine Keener's character and wanting to be with her.
Huh, I don't remember that.
And that's basically the ending shot of the film. So he's controlling their daughter while having sexual desires for the daughter's mother, which is just really, really bizarre. So I'm okay with Thor winning because of how bizarre it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Which is weird.
my
'cause
vote's towards Being John Malkovich.
I like those kind of movies. I think this just there's no character you're rooting for in that movie. There's no like this is the person that I can identify with.
Yeah.
You want nothing to do with any of those people.
But there isn't another movie like this out there.
I agree. And
It's so...
well, actually, no, I disagree. I'd say adaptation's very similar. It plays similar tricks, but does it better.
And there are likable characters.
And there are
in it,
characters
too.
you're you can empathize with.
Mm.
So
I'm going to go Being John Malkovich.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Thor.
okay.
Yep.
Next movie is 10 Things I Hate About You.
Which is a movie I really like. I really enjoyed that. Like, that was one of those teen movies that raised the standard on teen movies. It wasn't just like a stupid American Pie movie. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was based on Shakespeare. That's probably why you enjoyed it so much.
Yes.
Well, no, I mean, it's beyond that. Like, it was well done. I mean, you have Julie Stiles and Heath Ledger in there, and like they did a really good job with the movie. Plus, you also had what's his face,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, you had a lot of likable characters, and it was and there are. It's not just the fact that it was based on Shakespeare, but there were really good, memorable scenes in there that I just indelibly etched into my mind. You know, with the Heath Ledger singing "You're Too Good to Be True," going throughout the stadium. It was just what a great scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, you and I are a fan of musicals, and just seeing him do this
Yeah.
singing and dancing.
musicals.
I'm not
Why are
talking
you
to
leaving
you.
me out? I love musicals.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go. Sorry. All right, anyways.
That being said, I'm going Thor.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going Thor.
Yeah.
How can you do that?
I'm actually siding with Alvin on this one.
Oh, really?
10 things I hate about
Really?
it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it is about that
Let's just
movie
all calm down for a minute.
All right.
I don't know what it is specifically about that movie, but I just really enjoyed that
I
movie.
really enjoyed it.
More than, I don't know, I feel like it's more complete than
It is a
Thor
more
is.
complete movie. Yes, agreed.
Hmm.
You know, a year from now, given those two movies to watch, I'm gonna want to watch 10 Things I Hate About You. Sorry.
See, that's
So you can't even remember the title.
I was doing that too. I was doing that watch test. Which would I rather watch? I would rather watch Thor.
I think I would too. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, this is a teen movie. It's a good teen movie.
It's a good
Yeah.
but
teen
it's a
movie.
teen movie.
It's Shakespeare.
No, it's based on Shakespeare. O is also based on Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And both starred Julie
Clueless.
Stiles.
Yes.
Based on Jane Austen. But Clueless is not Jane Austen.
Who was pretty good?
But it is better than 2001.
You shut your dirty mouth. It's not. Just because it's just like you can't elevate it because its source material is really good.
Yeah.
You know, and it does some good stuff with the inspiration of the Taming of the Shrew. Yes, but I mean,
Well, I mean, he's denigrating it by saying that it's a teen movie. So my counter
I
statement.
would agree.
Yes,
I would
I am.
agree. Yeah,
I agree.
and
I
my-
am.
yeah.
So my counter statement is that it's also
How,
based on
how
Shakespeare.
is Thor not a teen movie?
Well,
Thor is like a comic book movie. Like that's like the genre that it falls in.
I didn't understand
Yeah.
what was going on.
Yeah.
well,
These are 10 things that I hate about you, you know, but that's probably just because girls are talking. It's just,
Yeah.
chitter chatter, high school drama, whatever.
Yeah. Well,
You're right. There's some plot holes in Thor.
Yeah.
Yes. 10 Things I Hate About You might be more like I haven't seen it in a very long time. Might be more like just clean as a film.
it is.
But I like Thor a lot better.
Yeah.
Like I just when I think of these two, I just think that it's so much more fun, at least for me.
if
just
it
personal
comes down to the
preference.
genre test, I prefer superhero movie over teen movie.
Well, and I agree with that.
You know,
Yeah,
I would
and
agree with that.
these
If we're
are
doing a genre
I would
test,
say
yeah.
they're pretty close.
Yeah.
And so it would have to come down to the genre test for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, for me, like I look at this and I see 10 Things I Hate About You, and I see it, you know, amongst teen movies, it's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
You
I agree.
know? It's I think it holds up.
This was,
That's the
in a
time.
strange way, this was kind of like the 90s, well, the late 90s answer to the Breakfast Club.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has that, it has really kind of achieved that level of iconic,
At this point,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
iconicism? What would you say?
Iconic status.
Iconic status? I would say
I would say
I
wouldn't-
iconicism is
I wouldn't say
I don't-
iconicism.
I
That
don't
sounds
think
like
that's
That
the
sounds
word.
Catholic
dirty.
ritual
Yeah.
or something.
No. Anyways, I mean, yeah, when you judge it within its peers, you know, Thor does not reach any status of note or worth
Oh, I
against,
disagree.
against other comic book movies. There is thunder that's disagreeing with.
Thor is angry.
All right, Thor. I think Thor is pretty. I would put this over the Incredible Hulk. For me, this is
Well,
like-
that's anything goes over the Incredible Hulk.
No.
not the
Incredible
Ang
Hulk is-
Lee,
not
the Edward
Hulk.
Norton one.
It's already the weakest. I mean, if
These,
yeah.
yeah. I would put Thor maybe
I put
like
it over.
just below the first Spider-Man.
I put it over
Yeah.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
I'd put it over Iron Man 2. I would even put it over. I know you guys might hate me for this, but I don't have very fond feelings for the first X-Men. I would put this. over
Oh
the
yeah,
first
I agree.
X-Men.
I would put it over the first X-Men.
Yeah, not.
I mean,
X2.
this is really well done.
It's very good.
You know, I mean, there are problems, but
goofy.
I think part of the problems are due to just time constraints. They just had to shove so much in there. It's kind of be like, well, they have a relationship, believe it.
See, the thing
You
is,
know.
I liked how you said that it was these two are kind of even because I don't really have any kind of a really good reason super good reason for picking Thor over 10 Things I Hate About You.
Mhm.
Except that when these two come up against each other, they feel even, and I'm like, Thor. I would just rather watch Thor. I just like Thor better. You know, just
and that's fine. That's understandable.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, like I probably want to see Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Heath Ledger, make that decision. Make it now.
See, the thing is, we're stuck. We're clearly stuck.
Someone has to get it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. For the sake of the group, I'll go over to Thor.
Okay, we'll go to
For
Thor.
Chris Hemsworth pecs, you'll go to Thor.
That's why you're going. Say into the camera.
Say it. Own it.
I swear.
So Thor's now number 328 on our flick chart, and that ends our flick chart segment.
Okay, so looking ahead, we are going to do another buried film. It is called As You Like It. Came out in 2006, and it is directed by Kenneth Branagh, same guy who just did Thor. So that is our connection here. Starring Takuya Shimada, Brian Blessed, and Richard Clifford. Also has Bryce Dallas Howard in it. And
Matt Damon, you're a jerk.
Thankfully, he's not in this movie.
exactly. Yeah. And you know. So when
Go
we
ahead.
do,
We're not really listening.
yeah, that's all right. When we do looking ahead, we talk about what we are excited about or not excited about, and I can honestly say that the only thing I'm excited about is Bryce Dallas Howard. So, Steve, what are you looking forward to?
I am ridiculously excited. I didn't even know this existed. I'm a huge Kenneth Branagh coupled with Shakespeare fan. Hamlet is one of my favorite. It's easily the best version of Hamlet. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, this is a Hamlet story.
No, he did Hamlet.
He did Hamlet.
Shakespeare, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, As You Like It. This is Shakespeare.
okay.
This is one of Shakespeare's comedies.
Okay.
It has one of the best. It has the stages of man's speech in it. It has some of the best characters. It's. I almost went for my PhD in Shakespeare.
Oh, wow.
So I went through a phase where I loved Shakespeare, everything he did, and Kenneth Branagh sort of has made the perfect Shakespeare films as far as I'm concerned. Much Ado About Nothing, Love's Labour's Lost, but
Henry V.
Henry V, yeah, that was the early one. So I don't know how this slipped under my radar because these aren't the kind of movies I miss. So I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. Nate?
Yeah, this is a film that also slipped on my radar, and then it got pointed out on like some website was doing a top 10 like Shakespeare films, and I was like, once again, how did I miss this?
Yeah.
So I feel the same because I love what Kenneth Branagh has done with Shakespeare. I'm really, really excited for it because what he did with especially Much Ado About Nothing is such a good take on like Shakespeare's comedies, which I don't think had ever been done good before, at least on film.
Yeah.
You know, there's some really good Shakespeare's tragedies before in film, especially a lot of stuff like Laurence Olivier and Patrick Stewart and stuff like that. But his comedies had never been done really good until Kenneth Branagh came along, and so I'm really, really excited for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, everything that you guys have just said has made me incredibly excited for this movie, and I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah.
Yes, I will say I'm slightly more interested, based on what you've told me. Bryce Dallas Howard still the main drawing.
Oh yeah, that makes me even more excited.
She'll make a really good Rosalind.
Yeah.
She will.
She'll make a really good anything.
Yeah. She's been in everything. She's been in so many movies. Why is she not? More movies.
So that's all for this week of Buried Cinema. You can check us out on the web, buriedcinema.com. You can email us, buriedcinema@gmail. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're also on Flickchart, in case you skipped to the end of the podcast and didn't watch the middle for some reason. The rant pad should be back. We're got probably about 2 more weeks of a hiatus, and it should be back. We should be posting regularly. Maybe we can get something from Brian on there, possibly. We'll see.
I'll just have to discover my niche.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that will be back. So look forward to that. Also, check us out on YouTube. Yeah, have you got a schedule for that yet, or are you just getting it done when you get it done?
Getting it done when I get. I'm starting to. I missed last week because of certain stuff. We're gonna have like a farewell to Tom up there this week.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get. Normally, I try and get the YouTube video out the day after, like Wednesdays.
Okay. So yeah, look for it Wednesdays. If you don't see it on Wednesday, start emailing Nate every 10 minutes until it gets done. Yeah. Next week, As You Like It.
I like movies.